free.
Your host, Anita Blanton, and I will be with you through 4 p.m. We always have a number of things to talk about during our time here, but oh boy. Yesterday, this time we were gearing up for a big evening of storms, and they truly did materialize. We have lost lives in Indiana, and we have several people injured, and many others preparing to rebuild their homes in Illinois with more rain in the forecast today. Not just in the forecast, it literally is raining right now outside of the studio here downtown. So those poor folks who really would like to start the business of cleaning up and processing what just took place last night, they're getting more rain today. So we're going to be talking about that all. You can already guess. We're going to be checking in with our reporters and meteorologists as well throughout our time here. In this hour, in fact, Casey Cronus is going to be joining me as she is out gathering some new information about storm damage in and around Kankakee and Aroma Park. Let me also let you know, I just received a message just moments ago before we came live here that in Lake Village, Indiana, where we already know we have lost 2 lives in Indiana. We lost 2 lives from the storms last night. The Indiana Department of Homeland Security Incident Command is going to be providing an update to the search and rescue operations that are taking place right now. That's going to be at 4 p.m. So there's still a lot of things that are happening even as we speak here, and we'll be checking in on all of those things. We do have a few other things lined up for this hour. We're going to get into Chance the Rapper facing off with his former manager in court. This has become a years-long legal battle, and so we'll get the latest on that. Also, Cassie Carlson, our very own Cassie Carlson, is going to be coming up to talk a little bit of football with me. Yes, we have basketball happening, of course, because it's March, and yes, we have baseball yet to come. Well, already some that's already happening, but NFL fans have quite a bit to talk about as well, so we're going to be checking in with her, especially today with free agency officially underway. We're going to get an update on the Bears moves and all of those things. That is all to come. But before we get into any sports talk, we are getting the details on the Makers Madness contest. Voting is now open in the Illinois Manufacturers Association's bracket-style tournament that lets the public decide what product will be crowned the coolest thing made in Illinois. And Mark Denzler, the president and CEO of the Illinois Manufacturers Association, is joining me now. Thank you, sir, for your time.
Hey, good afternoon. Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. So let's just start off quite clearly. Doing a Makers Madness tournament during March means you're really taking upon the opportunity of all of the madness that everyone is talking about, typically about basketball, but for this.
Right. It's a great way to showcase amazing and innovative products that are made right here in the land of Lincoln. This is our 6th or 7th year in a row, and the governor crowns the champion in the ceremony in April. But a great way to showcase whether it's automobiles or food products or beverages. There's just so many cool things that are made across the state of Illinois.
Let's go over some of the things that have been crowned in the past.
So the very first year, we had Caterpillar's large mining truck that stands 27 feet tall with 13 feet tires. We've seen Rivian's R1T. Ingersoll and Rockford, they are machining the space pod where astronauts are going to live on Mars. And so that one, one year, and last year, a small company, MTH Pumps in Plano, that make an aerial refueling device. So when you're fighting firefighters, you have helicopters swooping in to pick up the water. This allows them to pick up the water very quickly to put out fires. And so really, coolness is in the eye of the beholder. But we have Salvation Army kettles made in Illinois, and White House china, and NFL helmets, and iconic products like Caterpillar's bulldozer, John Deere's combine. But there's 125 products that are entered this year, and voting started yesterday.
And so really this is celebrating like innovation that happens in our state with 125 products on the list. Yeah, how do you whittle that down?
So in the first round, you can vote up to 5 times a day, and you can vote 5 times for one product, or you can split them up. And then when we get to the top 16 products, that's when it comes head to head. That's mano a mano, so to speak, where every product will go against each other. You get down to 8-4, and then the governor will crown the champion. But again, some people might vote for bacon, for example, if you like bacon, or your favorite alcoholic beverage, or again, the large mining equipment. So again, it's a really neat, fun contest, and to see some of the matchups, it's just a lot of fun to showcase manufacturing that employs 650,000 workers in Illinois and contributes the single largest share of our state's economy.
What were some of the things that maybe intrigued you or shocked you that made it on the list?
Well, it's neat. There's a company called Big Eli in Jacksonville that makes Ferris wheels. Of course, we're familiar with the Ferris wheel at Navy Pier that came during the World's Columbian Exposition in 1893, but Ferris wheels are made here. As I said, White House China is made here. A lot of food products. There's a protein-based mac and cheese made by Gilster Mary Lee in Southern Illinois. Mellow cream donuts, for example, if you like pastries. So again, we're just showcasing so many things that are made here that people they don't know that they are made in the state of Illinois. And it's a great way for these companies to show what they make here and take pride.
Mm-hmm. And what comes to the winner?
So at the governor's mansion in April, the governor will crown them. They get a nice big trophy, but they also get to say for a year that they have the coolest thing made in Illinois that is produced by their employees.
Gotcha. So just bragging rights here. This is what we're working for.
Bragging rights, absolutely.
Okay, let me ask you this. I mean, for those who have won in the past, what are some of the things that they have told you about the difference a competition like this makes for them after that level of exposure happens?
Well, it really gives them a sense of pride in their employees. Komatsu won one year for one of their large mining vehicles, and they had T-shirts made, and they had a big celebration and a barbecue for all their staff. And they get the trophy to see, and they get a huge banner that they can put in their factory. And so, really, it's that sense of pride. Men and women go to work in manufacturing every day, and they're building things that are making the world a better place to live every single day. And so, really, it's that sense of pride, and they're showing their friends and neighbors and colleagues, look, here's what we make, and it won this contest. And so I think all the companies and all the products are winners, and that's why we ask the public to vote on what they think the coolest thing is.
Mm-hmm. And because it hasn't been going on so long, let me ask you about how it all kind of came to be. What was the conversation like to even bring this to fruition?
Well, actually, our friends in Wisconsin started it a year before us. And it really took off up there. And we said, hey, this is a really neat idea. And so we were the second state to do it. And I think now there's about 30 states across the country that run their coolest thing. I would say Arizona's call it the hottest thing made. And then we're talking about next year, maybe a national competition that, maybe every state winner goes head to head to see which product in which state, can we beat Indiana or Wisconsin or California? So it's really taken the nation by storm in state chambers of commerce and manufacturing associations. And we now see it in the majority of states.
Obviously, for a manufacturers association, it also puts the spotlight on those who do the work to bring about the things that we see each and every day. Talk a little bit about that.
Well, as I said, there's 650,000 people that work in manufacturing today. And, a lot of these companies, people drive by them every day. Maybe they're in an industrial park or gray nondescript building. People don't know what's made there. And so, again, a way for us to showcase what's made in Illinois and then also get their interest. There's a lot of jobs in manufacturing, and whether it's on the production line or engineering or front office or communications or marketing, it's also a way for us to showcase manufacturing and attract the next generation of talent to these facilities.
Oh, and maybe expound on that a little bit more. Do you feel like we're kind of coming to a place in society where more young people see these as jobs that they seek out to explore, or that this also helps in maybe opening up their eyes to new possibilities?
That's a great point. We use this to showcase manufacturing products and then the companies that make them. There's a job in manufacturing for everybody, whether you're a high school graduate, whether you got your GED, whether you're an ex-offender, returning veteran, or maybe you've got a double PhD. There's a role for everybody in a manufacturing facility. They're good, high-paying jobs. 90% provide healthcare benefits. So it's a great way for us to showcase to get that next generation of workers because it's a challenge today to find workers that think of manufacturing as dark, dirty, and dangerous, which is outdated. I would say today's manufacturers are smart, sexy, and sustainable. And again, if we can change the mindset of the public and parents and teachers and counselors and students to really show them what modern manufacturing looks like, that's one of the goals of the program too.
And in today's society, when you have so much of a focus on like AI, and just a few moments ago, I was doing an interview about the Meta machines, these robots. A lot of people think, oh, that's going to take all the jobs. What would be your response? Be it that you're with a manufacturers association.
Yeah, they're not going to take the jobs, but they're going to be different types of jobs. You might not have 100 people on the production floor, maybe you have 20 on the production floor, but those other people now might be programming the robotics or, doing other roles there that are a little more highly skilled. Today's manufacturing is a lot different than it was 30 or 40 years ago. And my dad worked in manufacturing. You have to have some additional training, and whether that company offers the training or a community college or a trade school, the skills have increased what you have to have today versus what you had to have a generation ago. But manufacturers are hiring. There's tens of thousands of open manufacturing jobs today, and people can follow their passion. If they're interested in technology or food or chemicals or automobiles or quantum, or data centers, there are jobs in all those fields.
All right, final question for you, Mark. Does Makers Madness get as competitive as March Madness?
Well, my hope is that Illinois or Loyola win March Madness, right? And let's have two winners from Illinois. We know our contest is going to have an Illinois winner, and we hope the same thing happens with the NCAAs, both the men's and women's. But it can get pretty competitive, particularly when you get to that top 16. The competitiveness and the innovative and imaginative ads that these companies do, and they put it on social media. There's Spray Cheese, for example, is in this year, and they've already created their cartoon character of a spray can of cheese. And so it's really fun to see what the companies do in this competition.
All right. Well, I look forward to it. And of course, we will be talking more when a winner is crowned.
Perfect. Thank you so much.
Okay,
Have
Mark.
a great day.
You take care. Let me tell you all, I think this is, it is a contest all about cool, but it was so hard to concentrate. Perry, can we take a live look outside? We had storms yesterday, and folks, I'm pretty sure I'm seeing snow now. Right outside of our windows here, we have transitioned. Yeah. We have transitioned over to snow. Oh my goodness. Oh, Illinois. Yeah, we're going to talk a lot more about weather today. Goodness grief. Even when the meteorologists give us a heads up, it is still quite mind-boggling to watch it all play out. Give us 2 minutes. We'll be back with our next discussion. Cassie Carlson has already walked in here, so we're about to get to sports. 116. Welcome back, everyone, and welcome up to Studio 32, Cassie Carlson.
Thanks for having me.
Absolutely.
Always good to be up here with you.
It is always fun when we have you up here, but it also means it's a big day in sports.
It is. It is free agency right now. This entire week, really Wednesday kind of becomes a formality because all of these moves start happening on Monday, Tuesday. They can officially sign these deals at 3 o'clock starting today, but things got really interesting last night when you thought Max Crosby was traded to Baltimore from the Las Vegas Raiders, and then essentially at the 11th hour, the Raiders claim he didn't pass his physical, which is a very ambiguous term and a little bit subjective depending on the team, knowing that he's coming off having repairing his torn meniscus, still rehabbing back from that. So now Max Crosby is back to being a Las Vegas Raider, and then the Ravens go out and sign the top free agent available, which is edge rusher Trey Hendrickson. So very interesting 24 hours or so, especially it's not so much involving the Bears, although the Bears have been in talks of, there's been reports that they were interested in Max Crosby initially, but it makes things very interesting. And now the Ravens and Max Crosby are all the talk still.
Yeah, because does Max Crosby's stock go down because of that? Or are other people like, well, heck, if he's not going that way, hey, we're still here?
Well, you'd imagine that a lot of these teams that were reportedly interested in trading for him last week, remember that trade went down like Friday night, are probably calling the Raiders to see what the new asking price was. It was 2 first-round picks. That's what Baltimore gave up to get this edge rusher. Obviously, one of the most elite edge rushers at the position. He's a little bit older at 29 years old, coming off that surgery. He's had multiple surgeries in the last 7 years, and I think that was a concern. It's just the timing of everything that became really interesting. I remember I got back home from work at like 7 o'clock last night. I went to go sit down on my couch. I opened up Twitter, and I'm like, wait, there's a statement from the Raiders that say the Ravens backed out of this trade. We have no further comment at this time. And then you start to hear all the things that happen, which players go through physicals. Although, based off all the reporting that's been going on by a lot of the insiders that have more knowledge to this, they're saying that a lot of the team doctors call the team that they're dealing with when they're going through these trades to get some background history on the injury, on the recovery. And then to say the deal's not going through is one thing, then to sign Trey Hendrickson early this morning, have that already lined up is another thing. And he's going to make around $30 million a year.
Ooh, oh my goodness. So what do we think? I mean, and the other thing about it now becoming official is we heard so much even last week about what this week would look like, but we do still get some surprises. So what do we think the Bears are doing right now?
Well, right now, I mean, if they're still interested in Max Crosby, especially at the lower asking price, potentially they're making calls. My feeling coming out of the NFL Combine a couple weeks ago is that the Bears weren't very interested in Max Crosby, especially given the asking price. At that point, it was 2 first-round picks along with a player. Because of how deep the edge class is in this year's draft, now you look at the draft capital that the Bears have, they have 4 picks in the top 90. And I felt like the Bears felt more comfortable with drafting and developing rather than taking on Max Crosby's contract, a little bit older, and knowing that they're going to have to pay Caleb Williams in a couple of years, which they are gearing up to do. So the Bears they've made moves, no doubt. They've been relatively like steady moves, I would say. It's like, all right, they cut Tremaine Edmonds, that frees up $15 million. Let's go out and let's find another linebacker. They signed Devin Bush to a 3-year, $30 million deal. We know that they had no safeties on this roster going into this week. We all thought it was going to be Kevin Byard, potentially returning, a veteran coming off leading the league in interceptions. A little bit older, or Jaquan Brisker, who had his best game of his career and finally stayed healthy for a full season. Instead, they go elsewhere. They bring in a safety from Seattle and Kobe Bryant, sign him to a 3-year, $40 million deal, a little bit younger, had 4 interceptions last season, obviously knows what it takes to win a Super Bowl, which shows some promise, and has a little bit more position flexibility. Left tackle was a position they needed to address, and Taylor Decker is now been released by the Lions. He's familiar in Ben Johnson's offense. Instead, the Bears re-signed Braxton Jones to a 1-year deal. Former 5th-round pick, started all 17 games his rookie season, dealt with some injuries the last couple of years, played in 23 games, was part of the left tackle competition this year, loses the job, and apparently he could be just a bridge between now, where they need someone to fill that left tackle position, the only position they don't have filled on the offensive line, between now and when Ozzie Chapillo, who's going to be out deep into next season, comes back. So it's very steady moves, I would say the Bears are making. I think that right now you look at their roster and they knew that this team would never be the same coming off of last season. That's part of the reason why there were so many emotions, especially after that loss to the Rams. It was like, this locker room will never be the same, and it's going to be really hard to duplicate it. And Ben Johnson laid that foundation right away, saying, if you think we're just going to pick up where we left off, you're kidding yourself. They were they had some cap constraints, they fixed them, and they're getting ready to potentially and hopefully pay a quarterback. So I think they made steady moves, and we'll see what happens. I think the good thing is you think about this roster, this team, and head coach, quarterback, you have those. And so that's one thing that makes you feel like there's some promise there, along with a lot of the other young players. They're at the core, especially on offense, of who will be here for the next handful of years.
So do you expect any surprises?
I'm not expecting too many surprises from the Bears. I know people think that potentially their biggest move hasn't happened yet, or maybe they'll call and maybe they'll trade Max Crosby. I think what you're seeing from Ryan Poles and everything that we heard from him at the Combine, which is the last time we did hear from him, he talked about sustainability and flexibility. And to be able to have that year after year after year puts you kind of in the driver's seat, where you can pay players when you need to. Maybe we see some restructuring of contracts if they want to free up some more cap space right now. But at 3 o'clock, you'll start to see a lot of like the reserve players signing deals, players coming back. I saw something on social media, safety Elijah Hicks signing a deal, so he'll return. That gives you some depth in the secondary. They did bring a veteran wide receiver in Khalif Raymond. He was with Detroit the last 5 years, a punt returner, led the league in punt return yards since 2021, familiar with Ben Johnson's offense, and brings a veteran presence in that wide receiver room that's led by Antoine Randall L., his former coach in Detroit as well. So I think the moves make sense. There's nothing super splashy or flashy, and I think that's okay right now. You don't want to be the Bears, the ones that traded for Max Crosby and then sending him back to Vegas, because now the talks about Eric DeCosta, the Ravens GM, it's just not a good look, and who's going to want to deal with them in the future, knowing that they got cold feet and they backed out.
Do you, when you look around the league, and I know you were saying you're checking social media, you're seeing what's going on. If you're looking around the league, are there any other blockbusters that you think we're going to get like what we just had?
No, I don't see that. I think most of these moves, this is like unprecedented, because you just don't see it. You've seen it a couple times, but like not with the big name trades that have happened, which is why this is such a shocking reaction from everyone. I can't believe that they backed out last minute. So none of the other moves were super surprising. I think you look at the Chiefs, Travis Kelce coming back for a 14th season. He was contemplating retiring. They also get running back for the Super Bowl MVP. I'm blanking on his name. So they're adding more weapons for Patrick Mahomes. That's always scary when you talk about the Chiefs, and Mahomes obviously coming off an ACL as well. So those are some of the moves. I would say in the division alone, the Bears made the most moves. The Packers release and trade a couple players, but I think you look at the Bears.
Backup QB.
Yeah, he was the hottest quarterback on the market. Someone who has only started 6 games ends up getting paid big time in Miami. He is, he joins his former defensive coordinator and a new GM who came from Green Bay as well. So some familiarity there with Malik Willis. So yeah, it's all these moves where you start looking, you're like, all right, so who's on what roster now? Because suddenly there's a lot of changes in the league. But the Bears overall, I'd say pretty steady.
On that note, do you think our backup QB will still be the backup QB?
Great question. Everyone's wondering. I said this at the Combine when Ryan Poles confirmed that they had received calls for Tyson Bagent, who undrafted free agent. They signed him to an extension, has aspirations to be a starting quarterback. The quarterback draft class is not very strong. The free agent class, not as strong either. So the Bears could flip an undrafted free agent into a pick, which is always good. I maintain that the quarterback room in Chicago right now works. You have Caleb Williams, who's your starter. He's your franchise guy. You have Tyson Bagent, who is this diamond in the rough that you found and extended. He is known to be just the hardest worker in that room, and I think he pushes Caleb Williams to work a little bit harder too. Ben Johnson loves him. Tyson Bagent loves Ben Johnson, sees value in learning from an offensive mind like that and being coached by that guy. Then you add in Case Keenum, who is another guy that they brought back in free agency to a 2-year, $5.5 million deal. He's 38 years old. He's going into his 15th season in the NFL, and he was going to retire a year ago before he sat down with Ben Johnson. And Ben was like, hey, can I convince you to come back? Like, this is going to be your role. We still think you can be very valuable to Caleb Williams, because in Caleb's first season, he didn't have a veteran quarterback in the room. And that was a mistake by this front office, not giving him someone to teach him the ropes of how to work, how to practice, etc. So I think that those three worked very well together. I don't know that they want to give up or shake that room too much. Tyson Bagent can win you games if you need him.
Yeah,
Caleb's been
that's
very
true.
durable, hasn't missed a game, but Tyson Bagent, he's 500. He played, filled in for Justin Fields a couple years ago, and I think that there's value in that too.
Yeah. Oh, it's interesting
Yes.
times. Okay. Before I let you go, obviously we're also in the midst of the Big Ten tournament. You want to talk about that very quickly?
Oh, the Big Ten tournament. I mean, it's crazy because there's now 18 teams. So it's like the
Big Ten,
expanded
18.
field. Yeah, the Big Ten of how many teams? There might be more one day. It's exciting because it's at the United Center. And so really it takes over Chicago. I have some friends texting me who they cover all these different teams in different Big Ten markets. They're like, I'm going to be in Chicago this weekend. So that's really cool. And then it's always, you don't know who's going to make a run.
Yeah.
Michigan, obviously, favorites to win. Illini behind them. You know, Nebraska's had a really cool season as well. So anything can happen in these tournaments. And then Sunday is just like the best day because
Oh,
it's Selection
yes.
Sunday. And then everyone starts filling out their brackets.
I'm already getting those messages like, are you ready to
Right.
get your bracket together again? Yes, it's
Very
a fun
fun.
time of year. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Gina.
Appreciate it. All right, everybody, we're back in 2 minutes. Let's just give you another bump picture outside as we go to break. Okay, welcome back, everyone. It's 1:30 right now, and we have a couple of lawsuits that we are covering today. The first of which kind of regards one of Chicago's favorite rappers, Chance the Rapper, is facing off with his former manager in court. This has been going on for quite a while now, and I have Selena Fragasi with the Chicago Sun-Times, who has really done a great job of following it all along, joining me now. Thank you so much for your time.
Thanks, Anita.
So tell me where we are with this at this point in time, before I kind of go back and and come back to present day.
Yeah, so the trial just kicked off about a week ago on March 4th. There's been some testimony with Pat Corcoran, there's been some witnesses, and then Chance the Rapper took the stand for the first time yesterday.
What are the allegations here?
Yeah, so Pat and Chance the Rapper had a relationship for 8 years. They worked together between 2012 and 2020, and Pat was terminated in April of 2020. He claimed that he was owed unpaid commissions for a sunset clause, which is kind of a standard in the music industry, that people who are terminated still have the rights to a certain period of time of royalties for the work that they did. So Pat is asking for $3 million in unpaid commissions, as well as other associated fees.
When we say terminated in 2020, was this like for a cause? Do we know the cause?
Yeah, so it's really all around what happened with the promotion cycle of Chance's 2019 album, Big Day, which, as you may remember, was kind of critically panned, didn't sell very well. It wasn't a great highlight in his career, unfortunately. And Pat really wanted to pull back on the promotion. He didn't want Chance to do a media blitz. He wanted to pull the tour, have a chance for Chance to regroup and kind of come back stronger. Chance didn't agree with that. His father and brother, who are now his managers, were kind of in his ear saying this is the wrong idea. And shortly thereafter, Pat was let go.
Mm-hmm. And like you said, so his father and brother are now his managers. This lawsuit, so it goes back to, I mean, if they're just now in court, it stems back to this 2020 break in the relationship.
It does, yeah. Pat first filed the lawsuit in November of 2020, so about 6 or 7 months after he was let go. And then Chance tried to have it dismissed. That was unsuccessful. Chance filed a counter suit in 2021 claiming damages of $1 million for breach of duties that he was alleging on Pat's behalf. And so it took this long to really get it into the courts, yeah.
Mm-hmm. What do we expect here? I mean, do we think that there's going to be some type of settlement, or what happens if this goes through further?
It's really interesting that they were not able to settle this out of court, as you would imagine most of these cases kind of get handled out of the public eye. But this went to courts. It has a jury trial right now. And I think, it's going to be interesting how this plays out, because the biggest issue here is they had nothing in writing. So it's kind of like his word versus his word. Everything was sort of this handshake deal that they agreed upon when they were young, starting out. They were like 19, 20, 21, and they were friends. And so they just kind of shook on it and nothing was in writing. So I think the burden of proof on Pat's side is going to be a little difficult here.
Yikes. Okay, that makes a big difference with nothing in writing. And maybe that is why there was no settlement, because you would maybe be forced to work something out if there was something in writing.
Yeah, exactly. And I was actually in court yesterday, so I did hear all of Chance's testimony, and he did say under oath that they had an at-will agreement. They never discussed termination. And the only thing they had in place, which, from day one till April 27th, I think, of 2020, when he was let go, was that Pat was entitled to 15% of net proceeds on everything Chance did. And he did have records that he paid him to the tune of actually $11 million Pat made over the course of his time working with Chance.
Oof. Are we thinking that, no publicity is bad publicity, that this could, you never really hear anything bad necessarily about Chance the Rapper, but do we think this could hurt him in any type of way?
It'll be interesting to see. I think really the focus on this is how they had such a unique partnership. They were independent the entire time. Chance never signed to a label. And what they were able to accomplish without any label power, including Grammys, including some of the highest charting albums, including sold out tours, I think what comes into question is how that may play out in the future for independent artists. But, It is interesting because the way that Pat's lawyers yesterday were presenting a lot of the evidence and information is that really it was Pat's influence and business acumen that got Chance to where he was, and they kind of showed that through the way that Chance's career hasn't kind of stayed at the same level in the 5 years that they haven't been working together. So, I like you say, any publicity is good publicity, but I don't really know what will end up happening based on if this falls into Chance's favor or not.
Yeah, and let's talk a little bit more about that aspect of the independent artist, because I would say from the time that Prince assumed the symbol up until now, you just hear more and more artists talk about being independent being the way to go. Would this kind of case kind of prove maybe otherwise?
I don't think so. I think there's a really strong case for remaining independent. Even in Pat's own lawsuit, the verbiage in the filing, he claimed how really together they broke barriers in creating accessibility for artists to maintain their own control and autonomy. So I think the thing we really have to learn here is have everything in writing, right? Like if they just would have had an actual contract, I think that this case would have been handled differently. And so, if you're an artist, a creative, anybody really, like, have it in writing.
Yeah, I mean, I would think that obviously a part of why people say go independent is the deals that you end up signing with labels that people end up feeling take away from them. But maybe the pitfall of being an independent artist is you don't have all of those legal representatives from a big name company to protect you from some of these things.
Yeah, it was interesting too in court yesterday that they were bringing us up a lot about what it means to not have a label, how really the burden of all of the administrative and other tasks fall on the artist and their manager at that point. And the lawyers for Pat were questioning a lot about how Chance, operates his business and if he is a label head, because he does, distribute his own music and things of that nature. And his responses were interesting because, both he and Pat, I think there wouldn't be a disagreement that for them was a really solid, important, altruistic part of their partnership of wanting to really vouch for artists. I think they both had seen how people had been taken advantage of, especially through label deals where you're getting a really tiny margin on the profits. And Chance was saying that really the artists who work with him, rather than like an 85-15 split, it's like a 50-50 split. So he takes 50% for what he needs for expenses for his side of being a, label head, for lack of a better word, for his own independent stuff. But then artists get a cut of the 50%. So they actually get more when they work with him without having all the red tape of a label.
Mm-hmm. And he does have a new album out for this particular, former manager. Does his work agreement, whatever they worked on together, does that cut into the new album's profits, or does it stop? I mean, because since this hasn't even legally been taken care of yet, does this fall into the new album's profits, or does this still cut before this was released?
The timeline's really kind of murky. I don't think it involves Starline. So Starline came out in August of 2025. And really what Pat is claiming in his lawsuit is that he allegedly says they had a sunset clause in place, which is a standard term in the industry for a period of some time post-termination that management or representation still gets commissions and royalties based on the work they did prior. So for Pat, that was 3 years. That would have been up until 2023, and Chance hadn't really released or done anything with Starline at that point.
Mm-hmm. Okay. What are some other nuggets that you're taking away from this particular case?
For me, one of the most shocking things was Chance yesterday on the stand said that he probably should have fired Pat earlier in his career, which I thought was shocking because I had never heard that before. But it seems like this relationship was really deteriorating around like 2017, 2018. There were some disagreements on some moves that Chance wanted to make in terms of canceling some tours, not appearing for some festivals. I think Pat was frustrated with that naturally. And Chance also alleged that this whole breach of duty thing came into play because Pat was making some business moves that he believed were acting in Pat's own self-interest, and it made him lose trust in Pat being his manager. So I think that timeline really hadn't come out prior, so that was a little shocking to me. And also the money on the line here. Again, as an independent artist, to make as much as Chance did and to pay 15%, $11 million to Pat. If you do the math, that kind of shows you how successful they were in this partnership. So I think I'll be very interested to see what the jury thinks, because this is a jury trial, because I think the burden of proof is really difficult on Pat's team's behalf without anything in writing to him to really prove that he's owed that money.
How long do we expect this to play out?
That's a great question. I think it may wrap up soon. I mean, Chance, Pat already did his testimony. Chance had his day in court yesterday, and I believe they're wrapping up his cross-examination by his own team today. And then they had some more witnesses, but I think we'll see a verdict in this pretty soon.
Would another possible, I mean, do you think this changes your, I look at like, LeBron and his counterpart that he does a lot of business with and has from the beginning of his career. And there's always these questions about whether to do business with friends or family. Do you think this would also bring up that conversation again?
It is a tough one. I almost feel like Chance with his management team in place now as his family is probably, in my opinion, probably a worse idea, because you want someone with some objectivity. So, it is tough working with friends, but I think Pat and Chance, I mean, they did work together for 8 really successful years. I think when you have two people who have a very solid vision and they can work together and they have the chemistry and they have stuff in writing, it can be very successful.
Yeah. So once again, we're looping back around to just put everything in writing, like and get a legal opinion of the writing, even after you put it in writing. Back that up with a little extra oomph. Thank you so much, Selena, for joining me to talk through this. I hate this for both of them. Obviously, there was some talent there. I mean, clearly with Chance, there's talent, but you hate to see relationships end up in court.
Yeah, absolutely. I hope they can work it out and maybe have a chance to be friends at some point again, because what they did was magic. So
we shall see after a court battle. Thank you so much for your time. We appreciate you. All right, everyone. It's about 1:43 right now. We're going to take a quick 2-minute break and we'll be right back. Okay, everyone, it's 1:48 right now, and we're looking at several different things that are happening throughout our country. Of course, we have a partial government shutdown right now going on. Really, it revolves around the Department of Homeland Security. Yes, there will soon be a new director for that department, but there's still a lot of questions as to how to get out of this particular partial government shutdown and all of the things that are being affected during it. I mean, even if you think about the storms that went through Illinois and Indiana last night, the questions start to come up in terms of like FEMA. Well, it falls under DHS. You look at some of the lines that we've seen at many different airports throughout the country, not really here at O'Hare or Midway, but the TSA lines in many other states. I can think right off the top of my head about seeing extraordinary lines in Houston at Hobby Airport, and that goes into TSA and the workers that have not received their paychecks in several cycles. So the conversation continues on, and Senate Democrats are dug in on this, saying that they are not going to vote for any bill unless there are changes to DHS, significant changes. But Republicans are starting to try to think of some of the options that they may have to kind of bypass this. And then it also gets into the SAVE Act that they're hoping to pass as well. So right now, the senators are debating this on the floor. We're going to listen into a bit of where they are, be it Republicans or Democrats, and kind of move from there.
Streets. We can make sure communities reeling from disaster get the federal support they need and hold federal agents to the same basic standards that our local police officers operate under on a day-to-day basis. Protecting Americans means doing both. If Republicans are serious about funding the Department of Homeland Security, the path forward is simple. Let's pass this bill today. Let's keep these crucial agencies open while we come together to negotiate common sense reforms so ICE stops killing Americans in our streets. I've been clear that I will not support another blank check to ICE without reasonable guardrails that stop the chaos, violence, and death that we've seen in cities like Minneapolis. Now, my Republican colleagues are trying to use Donald Trump's illegal war in Iran to get us to back down on these demands. Democrats know how dangerous President Trump's war of choice in Iran is, and that's why I'm against it. There's no denying Americans are less safe today than they were before President Trump took us to war. And I'm glad my Republican colleagues are willing to admit it. But if they think Americans will just forget watching the gut-wrenching videos of ICE officers taking the lives of innocent American citizens, they have another thing coming. The American people aren't buying it. They expect our government to stop terror threats and respond to natural disasters, not to intimidate and kill innocent people. I'm not giving up on my commitment to protecting Americans from Donald Trump's out-of-control agencies that have killed U.S. citizens, terrorized communities, and caused chaos in our streets. I, for one, am willing to compromise. I'm ready to fund the Department of Homeland Security without ICE. This straightforward plan funds key agencies while giving my Republican colleagues more time to come to the table on common sense reforms that Americans overwhelmingly support. Mr. President, I yield.
Mr. President, every day the Democrats refuse to fund DHS. They choose politics over the safety and security of our great nation. They continue to be the party of open borders and to fund the police. This just in over the wires, Mr. President. Breaking, the FBI has warned police departments in California that Iran wants to retaliate for American attacks by launching offensive drones against the West Coast, according to an alert review. That's from ABC News. Mr. President, we can expect these threats to ramp up every day, and meanwhile, my colleagues across the aisle refuse to fund DHS. Mr. President, this is a political reason. You know, folks back home ask me, why won't the Democrats come to the table? Well, that's just the issue. They won't even come to the table. The White House gave them a new deal, but the Democrats refuse to sit down with the White House and do any further negotiation. There's no negotiation any further for weeks now at the subcommittee level, at the committee chair level, at the whip level, at the leadership level, with our leader and their leader. They refuse to sit down with us. That's what America needs to understand. The Democrats won't even sit down to have this discussion. That's because it's a political issue that they happen to like. But we are a party of law and order. We are a party, we're a nation that wants secure borders, and we want law and order. Every day they refuse to fund DHS. They're denying the urgent need to secure our borders against millions of unvetted illegal immigrants and fentanyl floods killing Americans daily, proving they're the party of open borders. Every day, they deny to fund DHS. They're denying funding for law enforcement heroes in DHS, embracing their defund the police agenda that lets criminals roam free and terrorize communities. They are denying the critical cybersecurity. People aren't getting this. DHS oversees the cybersecurity protections for our power grids and infrastructure, inviting attacks from enemies like Iran amid escalating threats. They're denying resources for combating human trafficking and child exploitation through HSI, abandoning vulnerable victims to cartels they empower with lax policies. How do they not negotiate with this on the line, with American safety on the line? They deny the economic hardship on union workers and federal employees furloughed in their shutdown stunt, betraying blue-collar families they claim to champion. They're denying the bipartisan legacy of DHS by blocking reforms and oversight, allowing executive overreach that weakens congressional checks and American sovereignty. They're denying the blood on their hands from terror risk, migrant crimes, and disaster response failures, prioritizing radical politics over national security and lives. Every day, it's the Democrats' fault American lives are at risk. I ask them, quit your games, quit the politics, come to the table and make America safe again. Thank you, Mr. President. I yield back.
Senator from Wyoming.
Okay, so you were able to listen in there to both a Democrat and a Republican senator as they are debating this proposal for DHS funding, of course, which is holding up this government shutdown, this partial government shutdown that we are in right now. Democrats saying they are not going to give a blank check to ICE, that they're looking to compromise, though, but they're hoping to fund the Department of Homeland Security without funding ICE. And so they have proposed a measure on the House floor today. They're trying to get unanimous consent to pass a bill to fund agencies within the Department of Homeland Security. So think things like the TSA, Transportation Security Administration, or FEMA, Cybersecurity and Infrastructure Security Agency, CISA, all of those things that will fall under the DHS, even the Coast Guard, that falls under DHS without funding ICE. Republicans, though, are saying they are putting lives at risk while they are playing political games, essentially, is how they feel. And the Republican senator who spoke up there, he says that he referenced the fact that law enforcement agencies across California have apparently recently been warned that the Iran war could lead to a surprise drone attack in California. This was just coming out as he was reading it from his phone here, but there was a memo memo apparently that was sent to several agencies that are a part of the Federal Joint Terrorism Task Force that says we recently acquired information that as of early February 2026, Iran allegedly aspired to conduct a surprise attack using unmanned aerial vehicles from an unidentified vessel off the coast of the United States homeland, specifically against unspecified targets in California, in the event that the United States conducted strikes against Iran, which is happening right now. So there's reason to be concerned. Obviously, this is an ongoing situation with the senators who are debating on the floor, trying to make some movement here. What the compromise will be in the end, we don't know right now. They're still pretty much dug in on either side and feel like their constituents on either side want them exactly where they are. So where we go from here, we don't know, but that is the debate that's happening there on the floor right now. While we were listening to them, we know that President Trump is participating in a site visit. You see him right there. This is at a Thermo Fisher Scientific Center in Cincinnati, Ohio. I don't know if we can hear a bit of his conversation.
We got to do a good start. If you don't do a good start, it gets a lot more difficult. But it was a great experience. I love Ohio. And Kentucky we're going to also, you know. We love Kentucky. And we won them both by a lot. I think we can, absolutely without question, we can say by a landslide. And it's great to be back. Thank you. It's great. Thank you very much. And Dr. Oz is here, one of our real stars.
Mr. President, do you want to share with our buddies at Thermo Fisher about most favored nation pricing and why this is so important to your country?
So in the whole world, we were paying the most for drugs. We were paying more than any other nation by far. And I don't mean by a little bit, like double, triple, quadruple. I use it just as a basic example. A pill that would cost in London $10 could cost $100 in New York. And through a lot of talent and Dr. Oz too, and some of his people, they're incredible. But I dealt with countries and with the pharmaceutical companies. And pharma was pretty easy because they thought would never get it approved by the countries. So they said, well, we're going to be okay with it, which they weren't. But in the end, they were. They were fine, really good. But in the end, I used some very strong negotiating talent to get every single country to almost immediately approve. I threatened them with tariffs. I said, look, if you're not going to do this, you're going to take your medicine from $10 to $20, and you're going to bring us from 100 down to 20. So we're going to be now the lowest, tied for the lowest anywhere in the world. We take the lowest, and that's where we are right now. We went from the highest in the world to the lowest in the world. And I think it's the biggest thing with medicine of pricing. And you're a beneficiary of that, and it's made a big difference. But it's a big difference for people that aren't paying the $100. They're paying now 20. They go from 100 to 20. And a country, France, or one of the countries, will go from 10 to 20. And they said, we're not going to double our price. And I said, yes, you are. I said, no, you're not. And
Okay, so President Trump again there at the Thermo Fisher site in Cincinnati, Ohio. That is one of two sites that he's going to be visiting today in Ohio in the greater Cincinnati area. Again, Thermo Fisher Scientific, that is like Reading, Ohio, right outside of Cincinnati. He's also going to be visiting the Verst Logistic Contract Packaging Facility, which is a logistics and packaging facility in Hebron, Kentucky. He mentioned there that he was also going to be going to Kentucky today. So this Thermo Fisher site that he's at, or right now, that is a company that's actually based out of Boston. It's a Fortune 500 company, provides laboratory equipment, chemical supplies, services, and software for scientific research, diagnostics, and manufacturing for the pharmaceutical and biotechnology industries, which is why you heard him say that Dr. Oz is there with him as well, as they talk more about the pharmaceutical industry as well. So again, he has a couple of different stops that he's making in the greater Cincinnati area. We'll also be making a stop in Kentucky today, where he's going to be discussing over and over the TrumpRx.gov drug website. So that's why he's visiting these sites today. It is 2:02. We're going to get in a quick 2-minute break, everyone. Our next guest is on the line. When we come back from that 2-minute break, I'll set you up for where we're going in the 2 o'clock hour. right, welcome back, everyone. It's about 2:05 right now. Thanks for being here in our second hour of Chicago Live today. A little bit about where we're going in this hour. We're going to talk with our friends at the Shed Aquarium. Always love checking in with them to see what's going on over there. And they have what's called a pea-sized wonder that has first become known aquarium to raise a warty frogfish baby. That is the pea-sized wonder, a warty frogfish baby. And so hopefully we'll get to see it. I don't know. Do we want to? Yeah, we kind of do. We'll get to them a little bit later on in this hour and check in on the warty frogfish. We're also going to check in with a couple of our crews that are traveling throughout our state and also into Indiana, getting the very latest on the storm damage. We had a rowdy night, a deadly storm system that came through Indiana and Illinois with 4 tornadoes, killing at least 2 people. The search and rescue operations are still going on, so we hope that number doesn't go up, but the search and rescue operations are still going on. In fact, we're awaiting another press conference that should be happening in Indiana around 4 p.m. But we're going to check in with our crews as we've still had more rain today. We even had snow today. My goodness, in the first hour. It looks like that has calmed down a bit, at least downtown, but there's a lot going on weather-wise, so we're going to be checking in with them as they assess damage and also check in on the good folks who are still wondering, I mean, what just happened, you know? When tornadoes come through, everything happens so quickly, so and it changes or takes lives, and so we're going to be checking in with them. Also, we're going to bring in our own Paris Schutz. We're going to have a couple of conversations about different lawsuits happening in the city right now. So Paris is going to come up shortly, and he's going to be talking to me about one that has to do with the Board of Education. But right now, here's where we're starting with our conversations for this 2 o'clock hour. There are musicians who claim that Google stole their songs, their identities, their music, and more for AI song generators. And this is now in a lawsuit. And so I want to bring in one of the attorneys from Lovey and Lovey. He's actually the lead attorney on this particular case, Ross Kimbrowski. Thank you so much for your time.
Thanks so much, Anita. Happy to be here.
You know, we are seeing in a multitude of ways how much the music industry is changing rapidly, how much art and the value of art is changing rapidly. Tell me about how this particular lawsuit ended up at your in your hands.
So this is the 4th lawsuit we filed against music AI companies. As you just said, industries across the board have been pressured by AI, and the creative industries, including music, are no exception. Music faces an existential crisis from these companies and these AI models because they are competing with the musicians and the artists. So last year we sued 2 companies, Suno and Udio, and then at the tail end of the year, we sued one more set of companies operating a service called Eureka. These are a Chinese and a Singaporean company. And then last week, we filed this lawsuit against Google, who really for the first time a few weeks ago commercialized their AI model that helps generate music that's been trained on the work of millions of artists in Chicago and around the world.
So if it's trained on all of this stuff, how does an artist know that that's me?
So first of all, there are 2 different questions. The first question is, can an AI company take music created by artists? Like the artists represented in our class, David Woolard and Sam Kogan and all the other artists. Train a model and then release music that competes with these artists. Sometimes this music contains identical lyrics, sometimes it contains identical melodies, sometimes it contains voices that are duplicates of the voices on which these models were trained on. So at the end of the day, there are 2 separate questions, and they're not necessarily related. Is it right under the law for an AI company to take, without permission and without compensation, the creative work of millions of artists, feed it into a machine with training pipeline, strip all the information that connects this music to the artists that originally created it, and then release a commercial product that competes with these artists and prevents them from being able to earn a living in their industry. And that's what we're alleging is happening in this case and in the other cases we've brought.
But is that, in a sense, whether it's moral or legal?
Well, both questions are appropriate. We believe, and that's what our complaint contends, that it is not lawful under a number of different laws in the United States, under federal law, under the Copyright Act, under the Lanham Act, nor is it lawful under state law for a company to simply take the work without compensation, without permission, train an AI model, and then ultimately release a commercial product. And of course, we believe it's also ultimately unethical and immoral. These people have put in tremendous amount of time and effort. David Woolard, for example, is a military veteran, an active Chicago firefighter. He's doing this now and puts in a lot of hours to create his music. It doesn't make sense that we would permit an AI company to take his work and the work of millions of other artists and release a competitive model that could not exist. And this is the important question. These models, these AI models, could not exist and could not compete but for the fact that they took, without permission and compensation, all of the creative work, the music of artists that created it.
Mm-hmm. When I think of, large lawsuits, and maybe high profile would be a better term for it, high profile lawsuits when it comes to infringement or things of that nature, when it came to person, so before we even got into like the AI time frame, usually, like, let's say, when it was, goodness, there have been so many different artists, but Robin Thicke, had a song, and I can't remember which artist. It was an R&B artist and his family. I don't know if it was Al Green or someone, in that family, the estate of, that sued him when his music came out. And when you played them side by side, you could see maybe where one was inspired. Marvin Gaye, thank you. It was Marvin Gaye. His estate sued him, and they said, no, this was, you literally ripped this. And he was able to say, no, I was inspired. I didn't rip it. I was inspired. So if I listened to it a lot as a kid, that's kind of the groove that I have in my head. I didn't rip it. I inspired it. So how do you choose between the two if it's AI?
So that's a good example, but remember, AI isn't inspired by the music. It actually copies it wholesale. A musician can listen to a song or several songs, be inspired, and create a music. And yes, there's litigation sometimes that alleges that the music that was created is too close. It uses the same lyrics, the same patterns, the same melodies. We've seen that from time to time. What happens in AI is very different. It's not inspiration. AI companies take millions of songs, millions of sets of lyrics, feed them into the model, and then regurgitate competitive music. This isn't inspiration. This is just outright copying. And we know this not because we're guessing, but because companies like Google for years now have been publishing papers saying that they're doing this. They've disclosed they've looked at tens of millions of pieces of music from YouTube, for example, their own product. People put music on YouTube, musicians put music on YouTube because they trust that service. This is now a way to be discovered. And it doesn't make sense that that trust is broken by companies that take that music and train AI models. This isn't inspiration. This is just outright theft.
Is there a way, we have a conversation about AI for every industry at this point in time. So if the cat is out the bag, AI is here, and it's not going anywhere, how do these music artists coexist in a world with AI?
Part of it is by challenging this conduct. Google, for example, licenses music every day for YouTube, for commercials, for film. It knows how to properly ask for permission and pay for licenses. In this case, it chose not to do it. So part of the answer to your question is to get courts to rule that they are bound by the same laws that bind other companies when it comes to copyright, when it comes to commercial rights, creative rights. Part of it for musicians, of course, is to continue to create great work and to focus on live performances. I would encourage everybody to go see live musicians. We have lots and lots of great musicians in the Chicago area. And that's one way that musicians can compete. But on services like YouTube, Spotify, and others, it's becoming increasingly difficult for musicians to compete because these services are flooded by AI-created music that was created solely because these AI models trained on the work of these musicians without compensation, without permission. And that's a problem.
And you just really feel for these artists. You have so many great artists, talented artists that are already a part of this suit. You're looking for this to become class action status here. So where do we go from here on a final note?
Well, we hope ultimately that courts provide relief to the artists. As I mentioned when we started this conversation, this is an existential crisis facing the industry, not just in the U.S., but around the world. And it's a very important topic. It's not just impacting musicians, it's impacting graphic designers, it's impacting actors, film producers, so it's not limited to this industry. But it is an important topic that needs to be addressed in every industry, and we can't allow large companies to simply roll over the creative talent. I don't think it's a foregone conclusion that AI is running away with this. I do think that there are opportunities to provide sensible rules and put checks and balances on the system and require them to ask for permission and pay for it.
All right. We'll see where things go. Please keep us updated.
Thanks so much.
Thank you. We appreciate your time. It's 2:17 right now. I want to go ahead and bring in our own Casey Cronus, who has traveled to one of the areas hardest hit by the storms last night. And Casey, tell us exactly where you are and what you're seeing there.
Hi, Anita. We are in Kankakee, and the damage is widespread. We are talking about downed power lines, uprooted trees, and homes that have been completely leveled. You'll want to tune in at 4 and 5 to see some of the video that we got, but we just spoke with the son of a homeowner whose home is completely destroyed here in Kankakee. They said that they were at his parents' house, he and his wife. They were at his parents' house last night making dinner, and they realized that things were starting to get bad and that they should head into the basement. When they were in the basement, they said it sounded like a freight train slammed into their home, and the home is a total loss. I mean, we walked up to the driveway and you can see a washing machine. You can see pieces of the wall. You can see their belongings just strewn about. Now, the National Weather Service is still tracking all of this to pinpoint exactly where the tornadoes hit. Local officials believe that a tornado did touch down here in Kankakee. Of course, we need confirmation from the National Weather Service about that. They are surveying all of the damage and will be determining exact lines of where those tornadoes came through, hopefully in the next day or so. But people here today, Anita, are just cleaning up and thankful, though, that nobody was killed here in Kankakee County. 9 minor injuries, but everyone survived, and there are no missing people.
Are we still thinking that we're going to get any updated information? And I know that there was like a Red Cross, a respite for people that was set up. Is that still set up for people? Tell me about, things that are set up to help the people there.
Yeah, that's right. A disaster was declared last night in the county. We're told by officials that the governor's office reached out to offer their assistance. And yes, the Red Cross is on the ground here. I'll pull up this information in case anyone needs it, but there is a temporary lodging set up by the Red Cross at the Kankakee Community College. If anyone in the area needs help, needs somewhere to charge their devices, the city of Kankakee and the Kankakee County Sheriff's Office are also posting periodic updates on Facebook with exactly where community members can access these resources, whether it is just charging your phone or a bottle of water, because a lot of these people are still without power here.
I want to ask you two more things before I let you go. One, what was the weather like as you were driving down there? Because we had, rain and even snow here in the city, as I know you were traveling down there.
Yeah, we had some icy rain as we were heading here, and it is very cold out. Even the folks that we just spoke with said that they are surprised at how chilly it is as they're trying to kind of pick up the pieces here. The rain has held off a little bit now, but it was raining for our entire drive here and even when we got on the ground.
Mm-hmm. And as you're assessing it with your own eyes, I mean, we train for a lot of this. We see a lot of this. But tell me what was going through your mind as you were starting to pull into town and seeing what you had only heard before seeing it with your own eyes.
Yeah, the damage, Anita, is so much more widespread than we expected. And when we got on the ground and we started to see these really old trees that have just been completely uprooted, someone's driveway was pulled up because one of the trees came crashing down. And then when we got further south, closer to Aroma Park, where officials also believe the tornado swung through, seeing these homes destroyed, people's belongings, it really is heart-wrenching to see. But again, we're just grateful that everyone here in Kankakee County is okay. We know there was loss of life in Indiana, which of course we are thinking about those victims and their families. Again, 9 injuries here in Kankakee County, and it's so bad, but I think officials here know that it could have been so much worse.
Absolutely. Okay, tell us where you go from here with your reporting before I let you go.
Yeah, so right now we are going to collect all of the video, the interviews that we got today, start to put everything together for our report coming up at 4 o'clock.
Okay. All right. We'll see you at 4 o'clock. Thank you so much, Casey there in Kankakee. And just so you know, we're going to be checking in with Brett. She mentioned the fact that you have about 9 people who were injured and so many others who have a hefty cleanup process on their hands right now there in Kankakee. And of course, one couple was not even that lucky there in Indiana. We did have the loss of 2 elderly people in the same home. So we're our thoughts are with their family right now. I mean, you just never want to hear about a loss of life. Even talking to the meteorologists, they say, like, you prepare, try to get as much information out there as possible so that you can save lives, protect lives. Obviously, property you don't want to be damaged, but at least you can rebuild. But it is still heartbreaking whenever you hear about a loss of life in these types of situations. So we're going to be checking in with Brett. He is in Indiana. That should be around 2:30. So stick with us for more information about that. We're going to get to him shortly. It's 2:22 right now, though, and Paris Schutz just walked in the room. So give us 2 minutes. We're going to set him up, and then we'll talk about his story for the day. Okay, welcome back. 2:25 right now. Paris Schutz here in Studio 32. And, you have quite the story for today.
Well, a reporter never likes to be part of the story, but I think it's interesting in this case because I received a letter this morning to my email inbox from a law firm and basically stating, asking me to participate in an investigation by the Chicago Board of Education president. Now, the president is hiring this law firm to question who allegedly leaked information on a special meeting that they had scheduled. Now, for context, any meeting by the Board of Education has to be public. It has to have public notification. I reported that this meeting was scheduled. Apparently, according to sources at the Board of Education, it irked the board president, who then threatened to force the resignation of a board member who would have leaked that information, if that was a board member. And now they've brought in a law firm to try and find who that person is, to the tune of tens of thousands of dollars. And so this law firm asked me to participate, and obviously I said no. I would love to ask them questions. I said, I'd love to ask you questions for my story, but I'm not going to participate in an investigation. And he's also looking at who allegedly leaked to another reporter about the story that they did in the Sun-Times and the WBEZ about the superintendent search. So he's been upset about alleged leaks, even though there's no evidence that these leaks even came from the board. And I don't know where this investigation has gone, but to target a member of the media is certainly striking. I mean, we've seen this. We've seen the Trump administration come after the media. Now we've seen, I would say, the Brandon Johnson administration, as Sean Hardin was his pick for school board president. And you know, we've tried to follow up and find out why they're doing this. And they're in the middle of a search for a superintendent.
Right. That search they thought would be wrapped up by September.
Right. And there's chaos
like
involved in that too.
Last September,
Right.
not this September.
So they brought in a search firm. They parted ways with the search firm because the search firm could not get behind the candidates that the board president and some of his allies wanted to put forward. And so there was a clash there, and there was a mutual parting of the ways. So this is, you know, this is very chaotic all the way around here in terms of leadership of Chicago Public Schools.
And you said to the tune of tens of thousands of dollars. Who's paying that?
The taxpayers. And I asked this law firm, you know, what they have charged. They didn't answer, and I assume I can file a Freedom of Information request maybe to find out what the cost has been here to taxpayers on what has been, you know, roundly criticized. The Chicago Tribune editorial board criticized this as a complete waste of resources, overreach. Obviously, reporters have every right to report on public meetings that are happening, and certainly reporters have sources that they want to protect.
Right.
And none of this, though, is a controversial story. That's the confusing thing about it is.
Well, they're making it controversial.
They're making it controversial. If this was something that was leaked to me that was some controversial personal information, which it wasn't, this was literally a meeting that had been scheduled, and someone notified me that this meeting was scheduled. And I tweeted it and I reported on it, and it's about as innocuous as you can get. Now the meeting was to raise, it was so they could get together to vote to raise property taxes at CPS, which they did.
And so from their side of things, essentially it seems like maybe it's not the one issue like with you, it's the overall, hey, we've got everything is leaking out, trying to figure out what we discuss in here is supposed to be staying in here, and it keeps leaking out.
And some board members have talked to me off the record describing a very tense environment there where the board president is allegedly threatening members to come clean, threatening to force their resignation. It's not clear he can force someone's resignation from the board. I mean, these were elected and appointed members, and you know, they're disturbed by it. There's many people who are disturbed by this, thinking that this is not what they should be spending their time doing.
And this is the first time we have that hybrid board.
Yes. It's a hybrid board now, and then next year, when the mayoral election kicks up, well, wait a second, is it going to be in the midterm election? No, the midterm elections, I think, is when the school board people will have to vote for a fully elected school board now. And I spoke with Austin Berg from the Policy Institute. He's libertarian leaning. He's the Chicago Policy Institute. And he's been very critical of the CTU and the Board of Education. And he said that folks thinking about running for the board and board president ought to look at this and condemn what's happening right now, condemn targeting the media, condemn targeting quote unquote leakers and trying to foster this environment of paranoia. And this could play into these elections coming up. And I should know whether they're part of the midterms or the 2027 mayoral race. Now I'm just blanking on that. Maybe someone maybe a caller can text us or tweet to us. But those elections are gearing up, and people are gearing up to run for those seats.
Yeah, and so it is a different environment. I guess that's really the most important thing, is that we're just seeing a different environment when it comes to the board. And these, you don't have that group of people that's all swimming in the same direction at this point in time.
No, and that's because, there's a hybrid appointed and elected. So the mayor gets to appoint members still. Now, the members he appointed are very closely aligned with CTU and with his agenda, and they've been trying to further his agenda, which has run into a lot of resistance from some of the elected members who do not support that agenda, taking on more borrowing, a pension payment that they believe the city owes, not the school board. So there have been clashes on that, and it comes down to who is with the mayor and CTU, and then who is a little more independent.
Which is a part of why we ended up needing a new superintendent.
For sure. And there's a interim superintendent, Macklin King, who the mayor and the school board had decided upon. So she was their pick. And she surprised them when she presented a budget that did not advocate for the borrowing that the mayor wanted and that pension payment. And it really threw them out of whack because they thought that they had an ally there. And she is not apparently a finalist for permanent. She wanted that, from what I'm told, but she's not been elevated as a finalist for the permanent position of CEO. So think about that. That's a lot of pressure. She wanted that position, and she went against the mayor, and it might have cost her a shot at that permanent position, but she did it because she explained she believed that taking on this borrowing was not the responsible thing for CPS to do, and it caused some clashes.
Okay, so back to the issue of today. You get this notice from the attorneys. I'm sure our attorneys have looked over this.
Yes.
So they cannot compel you to do anything.
Based on my belief, they cannot compel me because this is an internal investigation they're doing on behalf of the board president. This is not some kind of legal law that's been broken or something like that. This is a board president trying to figure out who, quote unquote, leaked something, if you even want to call it that. I mean, conversations with folks in public office, to me, are not leaks. I mean, I would expect the public expects us to be having conversations with the folks in office, the elected officials, the mayor, the school board.
Yeah.
So, to my knowledge, there's no legal way they can compel. But obviously we have legal folks in our company that will have to deal with that. But I did respond to them, asking them if I could ask them questions about how much are they charging for this and why are they doing this?
Yeah.
What is the point of this? And it's gotten universal condemnation. I think I don't think the public that has paid attention to this is fooled by this.
Yeah.
I mean, I think again, the school system has financial problems. They have leadership problems, and they expect us to report on that.
Yeah, and running after leaks probably isn't where if we're following the money trail, that's not necessarily where I think most people would want their money going.
And the board president has spent a lot to spend on this.
Yeah.
And now I've been told by board members are not compelled to participate either. Some of them have, some of them haven't. But to spend this much time when you're in the middle of a search for a new superintendent is quite notable, and we're going to keep following this to see where this goes.
Okay, all right. Thank you, Paris. We'll
Thanks,
see
Anita.
you this evening.
Sure.
2:35. Everyone, give us 2 minutes. We'll be right back.
All right.
All right, welcome back, everyone. It's about 2:37 right now. We have a jam-packed show for you, and so we want to go ahead and bring in our own Brett Bugansky, who is in Indiana, giving us an update on storm damage there. And, of course, this is an area where we lost 2 citizens, so we're thinking about them as well.
All right, so where we're at right now is the Lake Township Community Center, where in less than 90 minutes, we're going to get an update from township officials about the search and rescue mission from earlier today. They started it last night after the reported tornado hit just before 7 o'clock. We've already been able to confirm that 2 people have died. We heard earlier this morning that less than 10 people got hurt, and they were finding some people just out on the street. There was even one, as they described it, a miracle case where a man was trapped inside of his car and had trees on top of the car right now. What you're seeing behind me is the Lake Township Volunteer Fire Department, where we have seen several people come here to drop off some food, drop off water, and the big important thing to remember is that they're asking people to not donate any kind of shoes or clothing at this time. That could change, but right now they're not asking anybody to do that. Another thing that they are asking people to bring if they are clean is blankets and towels. This is a 24-hour operation as they're trying to get a better handle on what kind of damage they had from this reported tornado. From the video that we have seen earlier this morning from our Fox Chicago photographers, you are seeing several homes unrecognizable. And there was a man, Steve, who we spoke to earlier this morning, who said that he saw a dumpster fly right outside of his home. He ran into his bedroom, heard more things, and then 20 seconds later, the roof was gone. It happened just like that. 20 seconds is all it takes here. We're in the beginning of severe weather season, and around 4 o'clock, we're going to be hearing from township officials about what they were able to assess as far as the damage, if they found any more people, and God forbid any more fatalities, as we've been able to confirm 2 people have been reported dead here in Lake Village here in Indiana.
Yeah, and you know, this morning when Say spoke to that gentleman who saw the dumpster, at the time, you know, he talked about how close knit that community is, and the fact that they, because of all of the craziness of overnight, didn't even know who those people were yet.
See, everything is relative when you talk about a small town, right? For someone like myself, I've lived all over the United States, and I've been in towns where you've only got about 32 people living there. This is a town of a little less than 1,000 people. In Newton County, you've got about 3,000 people. So this is one of those places where everybody knows one another. And out of those homes where there was significant damage, and at least one of them, it's a complete loss, so they have to be able to build a brand new home. One of them is a firefighter here in town. So this is someone who keeps us safe and protects us, and you have one of them who now is looking for some help here. We've also have people with the American Red Cross who are partnering at North Newton High School, which is just south of here. This is where they're asking people if they have nowhere else to go to find shelter there, look to find out any kind of insurance claims that they may have to fill out with their insurance providers. But at this point, when we are trying to get a grasp of everything that's happened here, we're going to find out how widespread this severe storm was. And looking at what the weather has been like the last 48 hours, volatile situation. You had 70 degrees, almost 80 degrees in certain areas. And then in the Chicagoland area, it dropped down into the 30s. So anytime you have that drastic weather pattern here, it is just a recipe for disaster. And in this case, you have severe weather in the form of tornadoes.
Yeah, and does it feel like people are now absorbing this shock? I mean, obviously in the morning, people were just seeing everything for the first time. What is the mood like there? How are people dealing with all of this as the day goes on?
Well, you'll have to forgive us since we just got here within the last half hour and we were just stationed right over here. But everybody And just like in a lot of towns, they mind their business, they keep their head down, and they just want to be able to help one another. In this case, they're dropping off food, they're dropping off water. Really don't want any kind of press or any kind of accolades here. They're just trying to help one another at this point. But looking at their faces, they're just very stoic and in the game. But we haven't seen anybody emotionally break down here. But anybody who has lost everything in their livelihood, I can imagine they're trying to get some help right now. But we have not personally seen any of those people right here.
Gotcha. Yes, you just arrived there on the scene. So we'll allow you to continue to speak to people in the area and put together, your work for later this evening. And again, we are anticipating that press conference at 4 o'clock, and hopefully we'll get some more information about in their initial release that came to us, Brett. It said that we would be getting an update on their search and rescue operations that's still ongoing. So that tells me maybe everyone's not accounted for yet.
Well, they didn't say that specifically. The one thing they did say, and this is what we do know, is that we had been reporting the possibility of severe weather for days now, and they wanted to thank our meteorologist and getting everybody in the emergency responders ready for this, because they had been watching the forecast, and the fire chief talked about how they had spotters going in across state lines into Illinois. They with their own eyes saw the tornado, and because of what they saw, they were able to let emergency dispatchers know to set off the tornado sirens, and that gave enough people enough time that if they were in the path of that storm, that they could either get in the basement, get in their tornado shelter, or just end up evacuating if it was safe to do so. So I think the timing of everything and the fact that they had a lot of heads up behind this really spoke to how everybody was so prepared for this, because if you're just joining us, 2 people confirmed dead. They said there were less than 10 people who got hurt. They said had they not been this prepared, it would have been much worse. So they once again thanked our meteorologists for having that right information at the right time, and it was early, because this is the kind of information that saves people's lives.
Yeah, absolutely. I was just pointing out the part of their presser that they said an update to the search and rescue operations taking place. So I'm wondering what further information we might be able to get from them in this 4 o'clock presser. So we'll see very soon. We're only about, obviously a short time away from that. Brett, we'll let you go and continue to gather. And thank you for updating us, even though you just got there. Thank you.
Hey, it's my pleasure. Thanks.
All right, everybody. It's about 2:45. Again, that press conference is with the Indiana Department of Homeland Security Incident Command that's going to be providing those updates at 4 o'clock, and we're going to take it live just as soon as it begins. Let's take a 2-minute break, and we'll reset here on Chicago Live, and we'll be right back. welcome back, everyone. It's about 2:48 right now, and we're getting to our conversation with our friends at the Shed Aquarium. Kayla Melton Rogala is the senior aquarist, and she's here to talk to us about the Shed Aquarium becoming the first known aquarium to raise a warty frogfish baby. Thank you for your time.
Thank you for having me.
And you joined us without the warty frogfish? I thought I was going to get to see it.
Yes, he's so small that if we tried to get him on the Zoom call, you would not be able to see him very well. So
really?
You're just going to have to use your imagination for this one.
Oh my goodness. Okay, well, tell us about the size and where we got him from.
Yes, he is just over a centimeter long. So he's very small, just about the size of a green pea. And he was born here at Shed. He was born as an egg raft. So warty frogfish are a type of animal that release eggs into the water. And they have a gelatinous mass that comes out of the female with all thousands and thousands of eggs. And that kind of floats to the surface. And that is where the eggs hatch from. He was born last fall, and along with thousands of others, lived in one of our larval rearing tanks where he got very close care for about 90 days. And then he turned into past the larval development stage to look like an actual frogfish. So now he looks just like the adults, only much, much smaller.
Okay, I have so many questions. One, is he going to stay that size? I mean, is there a growth period for these? Or he will live his life pea-sized?
He is growing like a weed. He is eating lots and lots of food right now and growing at a very high rate. And eventually he will get the same size as the adults, which they themselves are not very big fish. They're about 6 inches long at its max. You can see the adults here at Shed and Wild Reef. They are in the front of house area of Wild Reef down by the schooling fish tank.
What is care like for them? Like, what do they eat? How do you care for these?
So the adults eat either little tiny glass minnows, which are fish that are like that big, or some live glass shrimp or grass shrimp, some people call them. And they are about the same size as the frogfish's head. Frogfish are very special in the sense that they have the ability to open their jaw really wide and eat things that are basically the same size as themselves. The babies also eat things that are proportionally very big compared to the size of its body, but it is much smaller than what the adults eat. So right now he is eating some brine shrimp, which is, some people at home might know them as like sea monkeys, but that is the size of food that he is currently eating.
So perplexed right now. What about the name? Let's talk about the name. Why is it warty? And what exactly is the frogfish?
Yes, so 2 parts to this. So the warty part is because on its skin, it is very soft, but it has slight little bumps along the skin. And this allows it to look like its surroundings. So warty frogfish does have the ability to camouflage itself. It is indigenous to the Indo-Pacific area, so Indian Ocean, Pacific Ocean, kind of by Indonesia. It'll hide in rocky and corals. And to look like that, you kind of need little protrusions on your body to look like a rock. So that's where the name warty comes from. Frogfish comes from the fact that they don't look like a typical fish that most people think of. Their front fins, which we call their pectoral fins, that are most fish use to swim along, they more use them to crawl along the bottom of the ocean. So they're going to crawl along those rocks that they hide in, and it kind of makes their front fins look more like a frog's feet.
Wow. Okay, so do they fit more in the fish family or more in the frog family?
They are definitely more in the fish family. They are in the family that is called anglerfish, which some people might know as the type of fish that have a little protrusion on front of their face that sometimes will have a light or something else like a little dot that looks like a shrimp to entice its prey to come closer to it so it may eat its prey. So it's that tiny little lure that kind of looks like a fishing rod that goes off the front of the face is the anglerfish family, and that is where the frogfish is.
And you know, when I heard warty frogfish, I thought back to like when I was a little girl and I loved frogs, and my mom would always say, "Don't touch that thing; you're gonna get a wart on your hand." You know, was there any truth to that?
That is not going to be the case for the warty frogfish. The warty frogfish live their whole life in the water. You are not likely to come in contact with one. And then in regards to it being true for reptiles, there are certain things that you can catch from reptiles, so it's always best to wash your hands after you touch them. But it just depends on what individual you're talking about.
Aha. Okay. Well, one of my producers, Perry, she found a picture of this. Ooh. Oh. I meant, so are we superimposed here? Because it looks small but mighty here, but maybe because we're looking at it from this standpoint, does he look bigger to you than what he would actually be?
Yes, so that makes it look like he's much bigger to me, but actually they're very small. That particular coloration is also a little bit different than the ones we have here at Shed. And for the warty frogfish that we have, the baby is very, very small. So it would not quite look the same against the rocks like that frogfish does.
And again, changing its appearance to be up against the rock, it has, you talked about the angles and whatnot, but does it change colors?
It can change colors, not quite as fast as some of the animals that you're probably thinking of, like an octopus that can change its colors rather quickly. It is more of a slow progression, and it can even been known to change colors into some whites, some yellows, some pinks, and some oranges. It can kind of just take its time over a couple weeks and change color to blend in a little bit more.
And what would be its predator?
So pretty much anything that can fit into its mouth. So you're talking some of the fish that would live also in the Indo-Pacific, that live in rocky shores and could fit a frogfish in its mouth. So anything that is bigger than itself. And for frogfish species, especially if they live in close quarters, have been known to be cannibals, so they can actually eat each other.
Oh Lord. Okay. What is their life expectancy?
So I don't know the life expectancy of this particular species off the top of my head. And this is one of the interesting things about working in an aquarium is we're still learning a whole lot about these animals that we don't know. For example, we didn't know how long it was going to take for this frogfish to go from hatching out of the egg to being past that larval development stage to start looking like a frogfish. Other frogfish species have been raised in aquariums, and so we have a little information about them. But for those species, it was closer to 70 to 80 days. Whereas for this example of this species, we were at 92 days when he finally went through a larval development period called settlement, when he starts to sit at the bottom more and develop those frogfish-like qualities. So we're learning new things about these species every day that we continue to have them, and we're lucky enough to have them nearby, and we can closely observe them throughout their lifespan.
Well, do you all only have the one?
So we have the 2 adults that made our little baby. They are down in the Wild Reef area. And then we have just the one baby that did survive from this group of eggs that we collected.
So yeah, we all have the same questions at the same time. It's like, wait a minute. So there are thousands of eggs and only one survives?
Yes, he is our little trooper. He has survived thousands and thousands of eggs started, and then we have our one. This is not that uncommon of a breeding technique for a lot of fish. They spawn lots and lots of eggs, knowing that not a lot of them are going to survive, either because they're going to get predated on in the wild or because they're not going to have the resources they need to survive. So it's a very delicate development period for them, which is why we have to take extra special care of them. And it's been so difficult for other aquariums to do this. And so he has survived, and we're very happy about it. But yes, it is quite the higher mortality rate.
Oh, and then for the parents, is this a particular type of animal that is like maternal, or I mean, because I'm hearing you all talk about, or you talk about you all caring for it. I mean, so once they have the baby,
That's it. Yes, they are not very maternal at all. Right when the female releases her eggs is when the male will fertilize the eggs, and then they drift away, and the adults try to stay as far away as possible. Basically, that's going to float away in the water, and that is going to survive if they end up lucking out and not getting eaten by something else, and end up having enough food and resources around when the babies hatch. Then they'll survive. But otherwise, the parents do not do anything.
Oh, wow. And where are they typically found?
That is in we call it Indo-Pacific because it kind of encompasses the Indian Ocean and the Pacific Ocean. You can think of it as those kind of areas around the Philippines, or any like kind of in between area between the Indian Ocean and the Pacific Ocean.
Okay, what does it mean to you all to be the caretakers, to have this moment, to be a first?
Yes, it's very exciting. We are just enamored by him every day and seeing his growth, seeing the development. We've gotten to learn a lot about the species, and we've been able to see him go through all these milestones and developmental milestones. We're very lucky that we also have a lot of tools to further look into all of this, such as a microscope. When he was very small, and he was smaller than a millimeter, we could track the development very closely. And this is one of the things that a lot of people don't think about happening in aquariums. They think about, this is a fun place to go with my family and see animals I've never seen before, but a lot goes on behind the scenes, and that's the exciting part for those of us that work here, is the kind of experimental side, the observation side, the getting to experience something new and learn something new every day. So it's meant a lot to all of us on our team.
And you mentioned, people getting their family together and going to see the animals there. We are at a time of year when people would be probably making those plans with spring break. So tell me a little bit about what you all have planned for spring breakers.
Yeah, every year we always have a little bit longer of time that we're open. I know that the extended hours are really nice for families. That way you can kind of come when it works for your schedule. For spring break, I believe we have a couple different programs that are out in the public. Beyond that, I think our day-to-day of animal care is about the same. We're going to be here like we are every single day of the year, taking care of the animals and making sure that they have everything they need.
Okay. One more thing before I let you go, because I always love hearing from people who have unique jobs, like how you got into what you do. Did you know when you were a kid that this is what you were going to grow up to do?
No. This is something that I kind of grew into through college. So I always was very interested in biology. I did very well in biology class. I enjoyed every moment of it. And when I got into college, I was trying to figure out if I wanted to work with plants or animals, because those are kind of the two routes you go to when you don't want to go in the medical field. And I kind of explored a little of both, and then was lucky enough to get some study abroad and internship opportunities that led to working with sharks and other marine life. And then that led me to Brookfield Zoo. Then that led me to Lincoln Park Zoo, and then that led me to Shed Aquarium. So now I've worked at all 3 Chicago institutions.
Wow. Well, you work with sharks and you live to tell the story. So you're a tough lady for me. Wonderful speaking with you today. Thank you for the work that you do. And I'm sure people will be... Do we have a name for the warty frogfish?
We do. Because of on his tail, he has a certain pattern that looks like the 5 pips on a domino, the number 5 that you would see on a domino. So we named it Domino.
Oh, I'm sure people are going to be out up to see Domino and Friends very soon.
Yeah.
Thanks so much for being here with me and indulging me as I kid nerd out, asking you all of the questions that I have going through my mind as I'm thinking of like Little Mermaid, talking to you.
Yes, thank you for having me.
Absolutely. Take care.
You too.
I have under the sea going through going through my head right now. That's so cute, though. Oh, I don't know. I don't know. Did the picture look cute to you? It's cute, overall. A warty frogfish baby that's being raised there at the Shed Aquarium. We love talking with them. All right, it's 3:03. Give us 2 minutes and we'll be right back. All right, everyone, it's about 3:07 right now. Taking a look at a few things at the moment as we begin this 3 o'clock hour. Just so you know, we are waiting on remarks from the president before we get to the 4 o'clock hour. It could begin. Obviously, usually the president's not it's so exact on the schedule because he has so many different events that he's taking part in throughout the day. But you can see the setup is there. That the fans are in the stands, and so we are awaiting the moment when he begins to speak there. Obviously, you can see from the signs that are behind the podium as they kind of fix the podium that he's going to be talking a lot about affordability here. It says lower prices, bigger paychecks. He has been kind of traversing through Ohio today, which is where we're getting this live picture from. He was at a thermo facility just a short while ago, and this particular rally is going to be held at Verst Logistics. That'll be the second facility that he's going to. Really, a lot of his conversation today is surrounding the Trump RX efforts that he has, and then also, again, as we get into a midterm year and people head to the polls, kind of trying to make the case for what he is doing to make life here in America more affordable, what he believes is working, and trying to make sure that people know what he is doing behind the scenes. So again, this will be starting at some point in time, possibly this hour, as they continue to set up there at Verst Logistics. If he does speak within this hour, we will go to it live. But while we're on the notion of affordability in the country, let's go ahead and take a look at Wall Street, see what it's doing today. And this is where it's closed for the day. Doesn't look too good. It has been a very volatile week this week, and a lot of that has to do with the U.S.-Israel-Iran war. So the Dow Jones falling here today. You can see it closed down almost 290 points. The S&P 500 was a bit lower. The NASDAQ Composite was a bit of a flat line today, but again, a lot of this points back to the ongoing conflict in the Middle East. A big portion of this has to do with oil and what is going on with oil. Obviously, whenever there is a conflict in the Middle East and you see what's going on with the Strait of Hormuz and whether ships can get through, what it's going to take to get ships through that area, the conversation about the possibility of there being some protection for ships to try to get through the Strait of Hormuz. There's a lot of uncertainty there, and the market never does well when there's a lot of uncertainty out there. So, we were hearing from farmers even earlier talk about what the cost is like for them right now in trying to put diesel fuel, of all things. Diesel fuel is always more expensive. So trying to put diesel fuel into their vehicles just so they can do their jobs on a regular basis. I mean, you talk about affordability. These are things that are hitting people's pockets hard already. So there's the question of how long this conflict could take and what the cost may be in the end. We do know that U.S. forces sunk several Iranian ships yesterday. These were 16 mine layers that they were able to sink in near the Strait of Hormuz again. So all of this action taking place around the Strait of Hormuz, which carries about 20% of the overall oil production for the world through it. And you have an issue, when you can't get ships through there safely, you're going to have an issue there. So again, we're seeing all of the markets really have a lot of volatility based upon what's going on in the Middle East right now. And we're still waiting, within this month, we should be getting some new numbers in, which that also kind of the waiting period for some new numbers, that kind of show whether we have economic stability or not. That waiting period, sometimes you can see some volatility in the markets as well, but just right now, things are not looking good on Wall Street here. Some signs of a weakening labor market have grown, and obviously we don't want to see that continue, but we don't know exactly where this is going. The president did signal this week, and we saw a blip of green on the screen for a while. I believe we're on Wednesday, so maybe that was on Monday. We started to see a blip of green on the screen for the Dow Jones, when the president signaled that this conflict in the Middle East may not last much longer. The minute he said that, we started to see some turnaround. But since then, we've kind of heard from Secretary Hegseth and others that the timeline, that there's no necessary timeline, hard timeline. So with that ambiguity in there, people just don't know. And therefore, investors kind of hold up on their confidence with the market. So that's what we're seeing right now. Hasn't been a good week when it comes to the market thus far. Haven't seen much green this week. This is the second straight day of seeing more red than anything, and we'll see where things go from here. But that is where we have closed, at least for this day, halfway through the work week. Still some time to turn things around, but we shall see. It is 3:13 right now. We're going to take a 2-minute break, and we'll be right back. Okay, welcome back, everyone. It's 3:15 right now, and two popular Chicago craft brewers are merging to form one new company. So I have Kevin McGillen, who is the CEO of Half Acre Beer Company and Maplewood Brewery and Distillery now. Thank you so much for your time, and congratulations.
Hey, thanks so much. We're very excited. This is a very cool thing for our companies and for the city of Chicago and those folks that drink our beer and some of the other things that we make.
Tell me about how this came about.
Well, we are friends and have been friends for some time. And last year, we had them over for a beer in our beer garden and talked about the opportunity to perhaps make some beer for them. We knew that they made beer other places, and so the opportunity to make contract beer for them was something that was on the table. And actually, one thing led to another, and the complementary nature of both of our businesses became so clear that a merger was really the thing that was the answer, and it became clear that this is what we should do in a time that's turbulent and really hard for some beverage makers. this seemed like the right thing for us.
Talk a little bit more about that, the times that we're in for beverage makers. What is that like for those of us who aren't in that industry?
Well, there are so many options right now for people, and for a lot of people, alcohol isn't the only thing that people look to consume when they go out or stay at home. And so we have to adapt. And what we feel comfortable with is that when you do reach for a beer, that something from Half Acre or Maplewood is something you'll reach for, a Daisy Cutter or a Son of Juice. But we also make other beverages that are not alcoholic. Maplewood makes Dro, a THC beverage. We make Half Acre sparkling THC. Maplewood makes hop water. And so as people make decisions that aren't always in the alcohol space, we want to make things for them and for people to have choice. And so really meeting people where they are is what we're trying to do. And I think that's a challenge that has been hard to meet in a lot of ways.
And why?
Well, I think that it's a business plan. If you go out and just decide, hey, I'm going to make beer for a living, it's hard to pivot from that. You've got equipment and a business plan and a way of doing things, and to pivot from that isn't always easy. And so I think this partnership is one thing that makes it a smart decision for us, and we're able to utilize our production space, and we're able to utilize their spirits and their non-alcoholic brands as vehicles to reach new customers.
So will customers recognize anything different? Like, will the labels change, or is this more of a higher level change?
If we're doing our job right, customers shouldn't notice anything. They should continue to see and drink high quality beer and products. And we're going to continue to pour our efforts into both brands and to make sure both brands stand up and are visible and are available everywhere that people are used to seeing them and consuming them. Our commitment to quality will not change, and we're excited to keep both brands alive in the city of Chicago and the markets that they're in currently outside of Chicago.
And let's talk about where people are used to finding them or seeing them. I know Maplewood is in Logan Square. Tell me about Half Acre.
Well, Half Acre's brewery is at the corner of Balmoral and Hoyne here in the Bowmanville neighborhood. And we've been here since 2014. And Half Acre Brewery, almost on its 20th anniversary. We originally were brewing on Lincoln Avenue. But our tap room is available. We're open Wednesday through Sunday. We've got a beautiful beer garden in the summertime. And it's a nice complement to Maplewood's tap room in Logan Square, and a new brew pub that they're opening in Glen Ellen in the coming days or weeks. And so we're excited about that as well.
It did seem like for a while, like opening up distilleries or breweries was like really booming. Are we still in that mode, or do you see some tamping down of that trend?
Well, I think if you look at the Brewers Association numbers, the number of people are still opening breweries across the country. But the number of closings has started to rise relative to the number of breweries opening. And so I think the pace of openings has subsided, but I think people that are able to create a wonderful experience for people, they're going to be successful. And I think that ultimately is what's going to keep people around is, can you create an experience and products that people want to keep coming back to. So I think that for the right operators and people doing it for the right reasons, I think there's plenty of room for that in the future.
What more do you want to do in the future?
Well, we want to continue to meet customers where they are, and we want to continue to meet and create beverages for occasions that people are interested in. And I think we're going to continue to seek out those occasions and create offerings for people so that they can enjoy them all day long. And sometimes that will be with alcohol, sometimes it won't be. And we're excited to meet those occasions and meet people where they are.
So you all are announcing this merger right before a weekend when I think it is safe to say a lot of people will consume. So do you all have some plans for like a merger party, or, is something coming?
Well, hey, the Irish, they have to have their day, and so we'll let them have their day. We announced the merger, and we hope to close the deal in the coming weeks. We've got some due diligence to tie up, and when the time comes, we'll definitely have our own party, but we'll let Guinness and the Irish have their day on Saturday and Tuesday.
Okay. What do you I like when I'm speaking with a business owner, somebody who has worked from the ground up with the company and had success, but weathered storms. What do you say to the people who would try to follow you, about how you have navigated this and continue to navigate rapidly changing conditions within your industry?
Well, Anita, I'm not a founder of Half Acre. I've been with the company for the last 7 years, and certainly new to Maplewood. But I would say that the key to the success for Half Acre has always been its people. And we've continued to hire great people, a diverse group of folks, and we've got great leaders here and great people that come in and work day in and day out. And I think that being able to continue to hire the best people and create incredible product for people, and to really try and do your best to read the tea leaves and see what is next and not play from behind, and try and create things that are interesting and forward thinking. And that has really been successful for Half Acre. It's people and its forward thinking approach to business, and really not giving up and trying to make and take bold steps, as this merger is an example of.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for your time. Really appreciate being able to speak with you, and congratulations yet again.
Thank you so much.
All right,
take
care. All right, everybody. It is 3:25 right now. Again, we are awaiting President Trump's comments there before a crowd in Ohio. You can see that the crowd is there, but the president has not arrived yet. So when he does come into the room, we will go to that live if it happens within our time here for Chicago Live. If not, we'll continue to press on. Give us 2 minutes and we will be right back. All right, welcome back, everyone. Just about 3:30. So much to talk about with our expert here, meteorologist Mike Kaplan, who, what time did you get to bed last night?
About the time I usually wake up in the morning.
Yeah.
Hung around here. It's about 1 in the morning. Caitlin came in early, late night. But, you know, I've been telling people, it's what we do. When it's partly cloudy and 70, you know. So hopefully the information that we were able to share with our team last night was helpful. But I've been mulling on this all day long. We knew, and people knew from any circle. You know, it wasn't like we had some kind of exclusive ownership to this story. Everybody, it's been widely announced for days. There are going to be severe thunderstorms. The highest chance of a stronger tornado was going to be in that general area. A tornado watch was issued way in advance. We had
You
warnings.
were right here waiting for it yesterday, looking at your phone like it's getting ready to be issued.
Exactly. And yet, unfortunately, we had loss of life. And I attribute it to nature wins, no matter what we do. Sometimes, in this case, we're waiting to hear what the intensity is of that particular tornado. We know that the one that hit Wheatfield, part of that same storm system, was an EF1 with 110 mile an hour winds. This is going to be significantly stronger than that. But even best practices, I'm sure folks were going where they needed to go, and even still we had injuries and fatalities in spite of all the good things.
And two, I think that whenever we come into severe weather season, spring season, that there is always a notion of not me.
Oh, sure.
You know?
Oh, sure.
That no one ever feels like it's going to be them that's without a home or
because
or
the
them
odds are it's not going to be.
Yeah.
You know, we're talking about several communities. We'll mention, Kankakee, Aroma Park, Lake Village, among the hardest hits, not exclusively, but among the hardest hits. And then, other areas did not have a tornado. A lot of us had big hail. That is, as bad as the tornado was, I think that the widespread and extremely large nature of the hail may end up being the most memorable part of this whole storm system. I know we've all been talking about the fact that we've had what will likely be the largest hailstone ever measured in Illinois, at least 6 inches, and there are some pictures of folks who have 8-inch hailstones. Insurance adjusters are going to be busy for a long time.
And make sure you deal with the reputable ones, because there are going to be some folks out there like, I'm an insurance adjuster right now. Make sure you check for credentials, everybody. Scammers will take advantage of the moment.
Great advice there. And now it's snowing.
Listen, the first conversation I had here on the show, when I sat down here, it was raining.
Okay.
I'm like, okay, rain, whatever. It's horrible for people who need to clean up, right? Horrible for people who need to clean up, but rain. And the first conversation I'm having here, I'm looking this way so I can see the person, but I'm like, wait a minute, is that snow? And it started to come down at a good clip too. It's not now, but
in parts of the area it is. I'm tracking a next wave of snow, and it's more than just flurries.
Really?
Yeah, the ground is so warm though. Here's the deal: the pavement's going to be nothing more than wet. You're not going to be shoveling
because it was 70 just recently.
I've been saying this. We've gone from a record high to record hail, deadly tornado, and now snow. So we've had 4 seasons here in 48 hours. But we have a couple more hours of snow crossing the area. Things will quiet down, and then I'm worried, not like I was for last night's storms, but I'm worried Thursday night into early Friday morning, there's going to be some really strong winds. There'll be some rain, but there's going to be a very, very strong gradient in the atmosphere between high and low pressure. And I think we could see some 50-plus mile-per-hour wind gusts outside of it. There'll be no thunderstorms. This is just winds blowing, and that may warrant at least a wind advisory and maybe even a high wind warning.
You thinking down trees, down power lines?
Well, it's a possibility. The only saving grace this time of year, the trees are not leafed out, which makes them a little bit less prone to being toppled in some of this. However, on the downside, a lot of us had an awful lot of rain, which has softened up the ground. And sometimes, weaker trees might be able to blow over. So that will be a concern Thursday night and Friday. And then, like we were talking yesterday, over the weekend, we have a chance for some snow and rain mixed, which could impact both downtown parade and also the South Side Irish parade. It will not be very pretty. Then we have a couple of really cold days to start next week.
I saw a 20 on your forecast.
Are you sure you want me to keep coming up here and talking here with you?
Emily was bringing us warm weather. Something changed when you get.
I feel bad. You're right, though. I think we have at least one day next week where highs in the 20s, lows will be in the teens. Some signs of moderating middle and end of next week. March is prone to these huge mood swings, and I think we'll spring back into spring eventually, but definitely a more wintry feel to things over the next few days.
Yeah, so I hope that you didn't put away your winter coats, didn't get them too far away. Okay, what are we looking at from this vantage point?
Okay, this is the radar, which we have set up so that different colors mean different things. Green, rain. What do you think that blue is, Anita?
I don't want to say.
There you go. There you go. That'll be your snow coming in from the northwest. This is, like about an hour, hour and a half. It's mainly light, where if you look closely, there's a little darker shading, maybe coming through parts of McHenry, Lake, and Kane County. That's where the flakes might be a little bit larger. And that you can see is maybe 11 and a half minutes away from hitting the city.
11 minutes.
11 and a half. I want to be as
11 and a
specific
half
as possible
minutes.
here.
What was the pink on there?
The pink would be a mix. That's where the radar is kind of, could be a little bit of rain, could be a little bit of snow. It's probably a little mix showing up in there right on that transition zone. But this is mainly snow. Temperatures are low, above freezing, so the roads are going to be just fine. And there's our cool view from the 2800 camera on Lakeshore Drive. Shaken. We do have winds gusting now in some places over 30 miles per hour. This is nothing compared to what the winds are going to be like late tomorrow night and early Friday morning.
Yeah, so are we socked in? When are we going to see some sunshine?
Tomorrow. It'll be sunny and it'll be in the low to mid 40s. Tomorrow's not a bad day. Rain will hold off until nighttime. So tomorrow just kind of like a typical mid-March day on the way.
And the information from last night that you're still waiting on?
Let me check, even updating right now. We have, so far, the Weather Service has confirmed that the tornado that went into Wheatfield, this is at the Jasper Pulaski Wildlife Refuge. I've gone there several times to photograph sandhill cranes, the beautiful spot. They had an EF1 tornado, 110 mile per hour winds, but that came out of the same supercell thunderstorm that produced the tornado or tornadoes in Kankakee County and Lake Village in Indiana.
What were your thoughts in seeing the images that the storm chasers got?
Well, first of all, when we started our coverage, when the tornado warnings were coming out, and during our late afternoon show, we had a situation in Livingston County, Pontiac, a little bit north of Pontiac. That's where the storm really started to fire up. It had some of the characteristic signs on radar of, this has got a tight circulation. There may be a tornado going on. And they had a tornado warning briefly there. And then the tornado dissipated. Once it moved into Kankakee County and we got on air with it, if you looked up a picture in the dictionary, radar picture of tornado, that's it. It was just textbook. But seeing the video from the folks that were out there, it was actually rather shocking. Knew it was going to be a pretty strong tornado, but the video and pictures, I'm very confident this is going to be at least an EF3 tornado, and it may be an EF4, at least at some point along its path. But I was like, oh my gosh, that is awful.
I was shocked looking at it. And what changed between Pontiac and Kankakee?
Could have been something as simple as having slightly warmer temperatures or a slight change in the wind field. There wouldn't be anything dramatic. When you have a supercell thunderstorm, and a supercell thunderstorm is more or less a storm that's by itself that lasts for a long time. These are capable of producing tornadoes, large hail, the whole shebang. And they tend to ebb and flow in their intensity over a long period of time. I mean, this storm was in progress for several hours, essentially uninterrupted. But there were periods of time where the circulation was not as strong, and then it just happened to get much stronger right over Kankakee County and more or less maintain that strength going into Newton and Jasper County in Indiana. Mark Strell, who was in earlier today, he and I were talking about the storm, and he asked if I had noticed how tall the cloud tops were. There's something we call echo tops, and I hadn't looked last night because I was so busy doing other things. That storm was 10 miles high. I went back and reviewed some of the data. It was 52,000 feet up. This time of year, that's the type of thunderstorm you see like in Oklahoma and Texas. A lot of times our tallest thunderstorms are kind of 35 to 40. This was, when you get that high, it is always a sign of a severe thunderstorm. And it's a shame it happened. And like I said, the loss of life is the worst. The property damage, folks are going to rebuild. But it's a tragic situation, and coming right on the heels of what happened there in southern Michigan in Union
City. Yeah, we were actually trying to link up, for a conversation with someone in Union City yesterday, but obviously they have a lot going on there. We totally understand we weren't able to talk to them, but yeah, I mean, you're seeing these different things happening, and again, like you said, we are early in the season, so it does make you a little like, oh.
Hope that things settle down. Here's what I'll say. Regarding snowfall, we had a really early start in November. We had a tremendous, and then things kind of, after a normal snowy January, we had essentially no snow in February. So maybe we'll have a really early severe storm season, and then things hopefully will settle down. But we'll be ready either way, and you can't turn your back on Mother Nature.
You were so spot on yesterday with the things that you prepared us for. Was there anything in the midst of all of those hours that even took you by surprise?
I would say the biggest surprise for me, I expected widespread hail. And I thought, okay, we're going to get a lot of reports of, golf ball size hail, maybe. The fact that we had so many reports of enormous hail, baseball size hail, grapefruit, and then the likely record biggest hailstorm ever. The size of the hail really impressed me. And coming up in our 5 o'clock show, I'm going to be talking to Professor Victor Gensini, friend of the show. Happy to call him a friend. He is a professor of meteorology at Northern. And he had a big study on hail last year with a group of researchers, and NIU students went out to specifically study hail and hail forecasting. And he was out last night collecting some of the hailstones. He sent us some of the pictures in. So we're going to talk to him about the hail and also the process of kind of verifying for sure. Is that hailstone that was found, is that indeed the record?
And what changes the hail size?
The hail size is all more or less determined by the strength and persistence of the updraft in the thunderstorm. You have a snowflake up at the higher part of the cloud. It's cold up there. It starts to fall. Gravity. That falls into a warmer layer of air on the way down. Snow is going to melt. Turns into a little piece of rain, essentially. Updraft blows that piece of rain up into the colder part of the cloud where it freezes into a tiny piece of ice. Well, now it's going to bump into some more of that snow that's up here high in the sky. Gets a little bit bigger. Gravity starts to fall down. Here's the updraft. Up, down, up, down, up, down. And depending on how many times it goes up and down through the cloud, how and where it collides with maybe other pieces of hail. I mean, we saw some strange looking hail last night. Some of these huge stones, spikes growing out. This is where there were collisions going on between this piece of ice, that piece of ice. But it really, one of the major features that determines the size of the hail is how strong those updrafts are. It also obviously has to do with where the cold air is in the cloud. But we had, in that several situations last night, we had intense updrafts getting into a cold enough region of cloud cover to make all that ice.
A lot of us, obviously we lean on you all. Thank you for preparing us. It's still, we get an educational experience to be able to talk to you all after something has happened as well, to understand what we just watched. So we really appreciate that. Obviously, our thoughts and prayers are with the families, one, the injured folks, but especially the family of the couple that did not make it in Indiana. But with you all having such advanced warning, surely we could have had more.
It's a great way of
like
looking
that.
at it. There's a great way of looking at it. Hopefully, collectively, all of us in media, the National Weather Service, all of the the people that are out there trying to promote safety here. Hopefully, it saved lives.
Yeah, certainly hope so. I believe so. It's 3:44. Everyone, thank you. We'll see you at 4 o'clock, and we'll be back in 2 minutes here on Chicago Live. Okay, welcome back, everyone. It's 3:47 right now. We have a couple of things that we are monitoring. On the Senate floor right now, they are talking about affordability. They have been in an ongoing discussion about affordability. I'm going to give this just about 3 minutes to listen in here, and then we're going to go to a rally where the president is. But let's listen into this for a moment.
The story for people who want to own their own home is also really challenging. Mortgage payments are roughly 40% higher than they were in 1990, even after you adjust for inflation. And in the past few years, the median home price has reached $400,000. As a result, the age of first-time home buyers is now 40 years old in this country. Now, Archie and I were about 30 when we bought our first home. We were newly married, we had a boatload of school debt, but we could afford the mortgage on our first home, which was about $85,000. Today, that home would cost over $300,000. So, all of this is why the 21st Century Road to Housing Act is so important. Mr. President, this is landmark legislation to build more homes, to bring down housing costs, and to rein in corporate landlords. This is the biggest housing supply bill to move through Congress in 30 years. It has remarkably broad bipartisan support in Congress and the support of people across the country who've been working hard on this issue for so many years. From the U.S. Conference of Mayors to the National Association of Realtors, the National Low-Income Housing Coalition, the National Association of Affordable Housing Lenders, the Enterprise Community Partners, all of these are supporting this legislation. What this bill does is it boosts housing supply by cutting red tape, by making it easier and cheaper to build good places for people to live, and by preserving the existing supply of very affordable homes in rural communities. So I've been working on this issue since I first came to the Senate. When I first was here, we went around Minnesota, we organized listening sessions on housing in communities all across the state, and I can tell you I got an earful. People told me that they couldn't afford to find an affordable place to live. Businesses told me that the housing shortage was making it impossible for them to recruit talent into their communities. Mayors were telling me that a lack of housing was hurting their community vitality, and housing developers told me that it was too complex and too expensive to build new homes. So as chair of the Housing Subcommittee with Senator Mike Rounds, my wonderful ranking member, we dug into this. We dug into the challenges, especially around the rural housing service.
Okay, so listening in there for just a few moments as senators talk about the road to home ownership. And again, this focus on affordability and that dream of a home ownership vanishing for a lot of people and them trying to right that turn that is happening where the age of a typical first-time home buyer now has risen by so much. So again, affordability, the big topic that they are talking about on the Senate floor. Meanwhile, the president is also getting ready to speak on affordability. He is at the Verst Logistics plant in Hebron, Kentucky. This is a part of a tri-state tour that he is making. And earlier today, he was in Ohio at the Thermo Fisher Scientific facility, and he's been talking about pharmaceutical biotechnology companies there and the TrumpRx.org to make it more affordable for people to have the medications that they need on a regular basis. So if you'll look at the rally behind him, it talks about affordability, lower prices, things of that nature. But let's listen into what he has to say to the crowd that's gathered there.
Thanks to the tax cuts, which are record-setting, we passed the great, big, beautiful bill, and I'm pleased to report that Verst Logistics is investing more than $10 million into expanding its operations this year right here, $10 million. And you're buying brand new tractor trailers and opening up warehouses in 2 additional states, Texas and North Carolina, and that's what it's all about, and that's why we did it. And with the help of our tax cuts, all of those trucks and warehouses and equipment purchases, everything that we're doing, and everything that you see in this country that's being built, you get what's called expensing, meaning a deduction in the first year. 1 year, it's the bit. Now, to a lot of people, that doesn't mean. To me, it means something else. It means jobs. That's why we have so many jobs, the best jobs ever. Perhaps most importantly to the workers here today, I'm pleased to report that the great, big, beautiful bill also delivers no tax on overtime. Whoever thought that was going to happen? That means every extra hour you work, your overtime pay is now 100% tax-free. You have no tax. Remember that when you go and vote, because the Democrats want to end it. So you take home 20 or 30% more to those beautiful children, or whoever the hell you're bringing it home to, okay? I don't know who you're bringing it home to. I don't want to know. That's not my business, although it could be interesting. After so many years of politicians who sold out the working men and women of our country, we finally have a president who puts American workers first. With us today are the front row Joes. You know, they have followed me. What are you up to? About 350 rallies, right? 350 rallies. I don't know what the hell they do. I don't know where they get their money, but they follow me a lot. We have a lot of people. They follow, just like a tour, but they're front row Joes. They're like professionals at getting on the front row. Thank you. And there's a lot of them, too. Thank you very much. Great honor. So a short time ago, under a man named Sleepy Joe Biden, has anyone heard of him? Has anyone heard of him? How about Barack Hussein Obama? He went to Jesse Jackson's funeral. He spoke, and it was like a political hit job. And the family of Jesse Jackson got angry as hell at him because they understand they hated each other. You know, he was there. But I loved watching that. That was so. The family goes outside and they start screaming at him. A short time ago, under Biden and his allies in Congress, we were dead as a doornail. We were a dead country, I'll tell you, and it looked like we weren't going to come back. Now we have the hottest country anywhere in the world. This is the hottest country anywhere in the world. Most powerful military. The stock market has set 53 all-time record highs since the election, all time. And the typical American's 401k is up by almost $35,000 since I took office.
Okay, so President Trump there at a rally again in Hebron, Kentucky, speaking about the economy. He talked about tax cuts, jobs, bigger paychecks for people in the end, and he says this is just a part of what he is doing to turn the economy around in the country right now. They're speaking at the Verst Logistics Contract Packaging Facility, which is just one of the stops that he has made today here. As he continues on with his tour in what is a tri-state area. Let's take a quick break, and then we'll be back to close things out for the day here on Chicago Live. All right, 3:58, everyone. I'm not going to ignore the fact that President Trump did make comments about the Reverend Jesse Louis Jackson Sr.'s funeral services that took place over the weekend. We kind of always say everything comes back to Chicago. So the speech was about, of course, affordability, but it did come back around to this area, making reference to Jesse Jackson Jr.'s comments since the memorial services, that he didn't appreciate the political figures that they invited to the services making political statements. That was what that was about. Listen, we are going to be tracking several things in the later hours here with our team. We will have team coverage of the damage from the deadly tornadoes that tore through our state and also Indiana. We're keeping touch with operations happening in Indiana. Should have a press conference starting briefly.
Live from Chicago, this is Fox 32 News at 4.
A deadly tornado tears through Lake Village. Survivors share what it was like to ride it out.
And then in Kankakee,